Okay, so here's my paper, and you can see it's divided into 4 sections. And I've had a chance to work a little bit on the black and white. But now I'm going to go ahead and skip to the complementary pair because so many of you are already beginning with that complementary set. And the colors you saw me mix on the palette is what I'm applying then to my artwork. And I'm working from dark to light. It helps me to organize the values, but it's also a habit that I've done because I'm an oil painter. You don't have to work from dark to light, but I like to get those darks carved in because then I have a point of basis to judge all the other values from. And you can see I have my picture next to near my artwork. It's just so I can see it and not have to keep that image memorized in my head. It's easier for me to look back and forth between my paper and the photo. And I do not have a lot of water on my brush. There's a little bit, but not a lot. So you can see that's the dark area right there. That's a bank, and there's a shadow in the bank. And this lioness is drinking from the water. So I'm looking at all these shadows and I'm breaking them down into shapes. And I'm comparing them because I'm using actually a little bit lighter value shadow farther back near the cat's hind legs. And so that one there is also a little bit lighter. It's not as dark as that first one I set in. So it's like a second, it's like a value number 9 if you're looking at a 10 value scale. And I'm oftentimes going back over and painting again in those same passages once they dry. So I'm giving them 2 coats. You'll notice that like when you first put down the paint, it's kind of transparent, especially on that yellow-green paint. You can see right through it. And you actually want to, it looks more interesting when you lay down more paint on there and you let it dry and you build up the layers. It can look amazing when you do it that way. Mostly on a first layer, you're going to end up with this kind of thin, very transparent layer of paint, and it's not going to look as good as it will when it's finished. So this is called massing in or blocking in, when you're blocking in large areas of value here. And you can see I'm twisting and turning my brush to get it to make different marks, to get it to go in sideways, so that I can be a little more correct. And it looks a little bit patchy at first. That's all right. I'm just focused on massing in and blocking. So that's a little bit lighter value. That's one of those muted oranges, where it has orange and some blue or orange and some black in there. Kind of looks like camouflage. So you can see me start to, I layered a little bit on there, but I'm still blocking it. And it doesn't look great, but that's okay. You have to kind of let go of this idea that you're going to nail it the first time out, which is pretty much impossible to do. And you shouldn't have that kind of expectation when you're painting. it's something that you're experimenting with, even when you've had years of practice. So this is the foreground area that I'm getting in here, and I want that foreground area to be a little bit lighter than the middle ground, and a little bit more brighter too, so more intense, so that it reads as it's coming forward. You want to create that sense of distance and depth if you're doing a landscape piece. So I know a lot of you are. Okay, and remember, I'm still just using complementaries here, orange and blue and black and white. And a lot of these are neutrals that I'm mixing. Remember, when you were mixing neutrals, you were thinking like, oh, these are ugly colors, they look funny. But they actually, you see them a lot in real life. They're muted and neutral, so when you're making those mutes, you probably didn't realize that they can be very valuable. And this is kind of abstracted right now, and that's okay. You let that happen. Trying to suggest the stalks of the grass there. So here is some of the water in there. And it was kind of a dark gray at first, and then it went lighter. And there's blue in that gray. So here's the lighter blues in there. And like I think I told you before when we were looking at the palette, that the blue actually has some orange in it. It's not blue and white. It has orange in there. Because you can see in the picture, it's not just straight blue. It's got some of the setting sun colors on it. And I am using a little bit thinner brush here. I had to compare the water in the back, behind the tail, to the water that's closer to the viewer. See which one's darker, see which one's lighter. Okay, so here is the next step. And I've worked a little bit more on the land there. Now I'm working on the cat. So I'm, again, going from dark to light on the cat itself. And because the cat is in the reflection, I'm using some of that color in the reflection too. And there's the cat's tail, the fur at the end. And I had to remind myself not to go into the other quarter. And normally I would add more red to that if I were trying to match exactly, but I'm using complementary pairs here, so I can't do that. So again, I'm working in like this hierarchy of value, going from the darkest areas on the cat to the medium to the light. So here's the oranger tones. And I want that cat to really stand out in this piece. So it has to be the brightest area, and also the area where there's the most amount of contrast is on that lioness. And I'm kind of working wet into wet here to blend, to get it to the paint to look, kind of merge with the other paint. And it's hard to do with acrylic because it dries so fast. I mean, you lay it down and like a couple minutes later, it's already dried to the paper. And like I said, you're still, you have to rework things and add on and build up the layers to really get it to look good.